Good morning, all of you. Welcome to Sri Jayendra Hands-on. So, we are continuing today atom structure, lecture 5. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about Heisenberg uncertainty principle as well as de Broglie wave theory. So, some more important points about de Broglie wave theory we are discussing now. Yes, whatever the PPTs or the slides have been displayed on the screen, just note it down because it is just like notes only. Once if you note down, then only you can write. If you write only, then only you can understand easily. By voice, you cannot understand simply. By applying concept only, you can understand the concept easily. So my request is to all of you should write whatever is displayed on the screen in your classwork for every video. Not only for this video, every video you have to do like that only. Then only you can able to do answers easily. Now coming to today's class, the relation between de Broglie wavelength and kinetic energy. The de Broglie wavelength of electron is given by lambda is equal to h by mv. This already we know. So the kinetic energy of the electron is given by E is equal to half mv square. And the kinetic energy and de Broglie wavelength are related as lambda is equal to h by root of 2mv. This formula is important. Please note down. So lambda is equal to h by root of 2mv where E is called kinetic energy. So if they are given directly kinetic energy, you can find out lambda by using the formula h by root of 2me. H by root of 2me after reducing this lambda by h by mv and half mv square. If you equate them, straight away you'll get the answer. Lambda is equal to h by root of 2me, where m is called mass of electron and E is called mass of the substance and E is called kinetic energy of that substance. Now, so next is the relation between de Broglie wavelength and accelerating potential. If the kinetic energy of the electron is obtained by applying a potential difference of V volts. So if you get the kinetic energy of the electron by applying a potential difference, by applying that is voltage, then the potential difference and de Broglie wavelength. Then the potential difference and de Broglie wavelength are related as lambda is equal to h by root of 2 MeV, where E is called electron volt and E is nothing but electron volt, and you will get the values. They will be giving the exam values also. So lambda is equal to h by root of 2 MeV. Lambda is equal to h by root of 2 MeV. So this formula is also very important. Is the relation between de Broglie wavelength and accelerating potential. When they are given instead of kinetic energy, they have given potential. So E is charge of electron, that is equal to 1.16 10 to the power of minus 19, and voltage they will give the voltage also. So if they are given the voltage and instead of giving kinetic energy, then also you can find the wavelength. So this formula is very important. I hope it is clear now. Next, relation between de Broglie wavelength and radius of nth orbit. So the angular momentum of electron in the nth orbit is given by the formula mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. Since mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi, that is angular momentum of electron in the Bohr orbit is also equal to nh by 2 pi. This already we have seen in the postulates of Bohr's theory. The de Broglie wavelength of the electron is given by lambda is equal to h by mv. By relating these two, we can straight away write the de Broglie wavelength and radius of orbit is related as 2 pi r is equal to n lambda. This formula is also important. So the radius of orbit, where r is called radius of the orbit, n is called number of the orbit, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Lambda is called wavelength. So 2 pi r is equal to n lambda, the de Broglie wavelength and the radius of the orbit. Now questions based on this. An electron is moving with a kinetic energy of 2.35 10 to the power of minus 25 joules. Calculate the de Broglie wavelength associated with this electron. So we know the formula for kinetic energy. Lambda is equal to h by root of 2 me. Writing the formula, lambda is equal to h by root of 2 me, that is mass, and E, capital E. So again my writing, it is not clear, it is not visible on the screen. So again writing, if I write the formula, you can substitute the values also. Lambda is equal to h by root of 2 into mass into kinetic energy, that is E. So this is the formula. They have given the kinetic energy in joules, so straight away, and they have given the electron. So mass of electron is 9.1 10 to the power of minus 31 kg. Write down mass of electron m is equal to, m value is equal to 9.1 into 10 to the power of minus 31 kg, because the answer is in SI unit. So straight away we have to multiply. So now we have to take the mass of electron in kg, not in grams. If they are given in ergs, we can take the mass of electron in grams. So by seeing the units only, you have to take the values of mass of electron. So you know the value of Planck's constant. Now by substituting these values, you'll get the answer. The wavelength associated in nanometers or meters. First, you'll get the wavelength in meters. You can convert them into nanometers by multiplying it with 10 to the power of minus 9. So let us solve this equation. So H value, straight away I'm writing the values. Lambda is equal to 6.625 in 10 to the power of minus 34 divided by root of 2 into 9.1 in 10 to the power of minus 31 into kinetic energy is given as 2.35 into 10 to the power of 2.35 in 10 to the power of minus 25 joules. So this is completely under root. 2.35 in 10 to the power of minus 25 joules. So if you solve these two, definitely you'll get the answers. Just how to solve, I'll give the idea. Minus 25 minus 31 becomes minus 31 plus 25, which is equal to 56. So 56 and this 2 into 9.1 and 2.35 multiply and make it as perfect power, so that you will get root will go off and that will go to the numerator and you can solve it. So I hope this is clear for you. And you can write even 10 to the power 56, 10 to the power of minus 56 you got in the denominator. So this 10 to the power of 56 can be taken as 10 to the power of 2 whole to the power of 28. 10 to the power of minus 2 whole to the power of 28. Then you'll get 10 to the power of minus 56. So 10 to the power of minus 2 root is 10 to the power of minus 1. That is 0.1. So like that you can easily solve this question. So this is the formula and the answer, final answer is 1012. That is 1012 nanometers. I hope you understood this problem clearly. Like these questions you'll get in the objective. In the objective, they'll give 4 options. Here I am not giving options because these are all numericals. So for numericals, if you don't give options, then only you can do it properly. Only the thing you have to apply the suitable formula. So here the suitable formula is lambda is equal to h by root of 2me, where E is called kinetic energy, m is called mass of electron. Next question. Calculate the accelerating potential. Here they are given accelerating potential that must be imparted to a proton beam to give it an effective wavelength of 0.01 nanometers. Mass of proton is also given. So what is the formula which I have given to the effective accelerating potential? The effective accelerating potential that must be imparted. Lambda is equal to h by root of 2 into m into E into V. That is electron volt. So electron is mass of electron, we know, charge of electron we should write. That is 1.6 in 10 to the power of minus 19. Charge of electron E is equal to, here I'm writing again, E is equal to 1.6 in 10 to the power of minus 19 coulombs. And they have given mass of proton. Here we have to consider proton because they are asking about proton. So M is equal to 1.672 into 10 to the power of minus 27 kg. And the wavelength is also given lambda, that is 0.01 nanometer. So except V, we know all the values. H value also you know, that is Planck's constant, that is 6.625 in 10 to the power of minus 34. So except V, we know all the formulas, we know all the values. So straight away by substituting these values and taking out root, you'll get the value of V, because lambda is equal to 0.01 nanometers. So 0.01 is equal to 6.625 into 10 to the power of minus 34. I'm substituting the values also by root of 2 into mass of proton you have to take here 1.672 in 10 to the power of minus 27 kg into charge of electron, that is 1.6 in 10 to the power of minus 19 into voltage V. So root V you have to find out. After that you can find out V. And after substituting this formula and do simple calculations, definitely you'll get the answer for V, that is voltage, and the V is measured in volts, that is accelerating potential. I hope this is clear. So lambda is equal to h by root of 2 MeV is the formula for applying, for getting accelerating potential. They are asking in this numerical, calculate the accelerating potential that must be imparted to a proton beam to give it an effective wavelength of 0.01 nanometers. So mass of proton is also given. Even if they don't give mass of proton also, you know the value of mass of proton, because mass of proton, electron and neutron, you have to remember compulsory. So remaining particles, they'll give the mass, but for mass of electron, proton here they have given, but usually they will not give mass of proton also. I hope this is clear. So substitute this formula, do this calculation, and 0.01 nanometer you have to multiply with 10 to the power of minus 9 because you have to take it in SI system. So 0.01 in 10 to the power of minus 9 is the value of lambda. Next question. So answer, you are getting it as 8.19 volts. You have to verify the answer. So next question. What is the wavelength of the matter wave? What is the wavelength of the matter wave associated with an electron passing through an electric potential of 3500 volts? They have given electric potential and the wavelength they are asking. So straight same formula you have to take. Lambda is equal to h by root of 2 into m into eV. So here charge of electron is given 1.602 10 to the power of minus 19 coulombs, and mass of electron is also given, and voltage is also given 3500 volts, and straight away you have to substitute. So h is equal to 6.625 10 to the power of minus 34. So if you substitute these values, you will get the lambda value in meters. You have to change them into nanometers or angstroms by depending on the answer. So here lambda is equal to 6.625. That is the value of h in 10 to the power of minus 34 divided by root of 2 into mass of electron, that is 9.11 in 10 to the power of minus 31 kg, into charge of electron, that is 1.602 10 to the power of minus 19 coulombs, into voltage, that is 3500 volts. So if you substitute this and you solve this problem, directly you'll get the answer in meters. Convert them into nanometers or angstroms depending on the answer given. So I hope this is clear for you. So this is called again the accelerating potential problem. So whenever they have mentioned potential, straight away you have to take the formula lambda is equal to h by root of 2m into e into v. Root of 2 into m into e into v. So that is called lambda is equal to h by root of 2 into m into e into v. This is called accelerating potential to find lambda when accelerating potential is given. I hope this is clear. Next question. These are all simple formula based questions. So answer you will get it as, so directly they are given in meters only. So no need to convert them. So whatever the answer you'll get, that is the answer in the previous calculation. So lambda is equal to 2.07 10 to the power minus 11 meters. You got the answer in the previous question. Next question. Calculate the de Broglie wavelength of an electron in the fifth orbit, fifth Bohr orbit. Very, very important. So they are asking us to find de Broglie wavelength. What is the relation between wavelength and orbit, radius of orbit? So use the formula 2 pi r is equal to n lambda. 2 pi r is equal to n lambda. From this lambda is equal to 2 pi r by n. And very important here it is, they are giving, you'll get the lambda in angstroms because n is equal to fifth orbit, radius of nth orbit, radius r is equal to 0.53 into 5 square into n square. So it is equal to 0.53 into 5 square, that is 25. So 0.53 into 25, you'll get it as 13.25. So radius of nth orbit is equal to 13.25. That is angstroms because the radius will be in angstroms. So answer also you'll get in angstroms. So lambda is equal to, finally lambda is equal to 2 into pi value is 3.14 and 13.25 angstroms is the radius of n fifth orbit divided by n value, that is 5. So by simplification you get the answer. So I'll do the simplification for you again. So 2 into 3.14 into 13.25. It is equal to 83.21 divided by 5. 83.21 divided by 5, we'll get it as 16.6 angstroms because the wavelength you got it in radius you have taken in angstroms, so definitely wavelength also in angstroms. So I hope this is clear for you. Next question. You can check the answer. Approximately 2.76 10 to the power minus 9 meters. They have converted that angstroms into meters also. So depending on the answer. So 16.6 angstroms you got it as 16.6 into this. Also I'm doing simplification for you. 16.6 angstroms you got. So 16.6 is angstroms. That is 16.6 in 10 to the power of minus 10 centimeters. 16.6 in 10 to the power of minus 10 meters. So we can take it as 10 to the power of minus 9 meters you are getting here. So 1.66. Actually, you got 2.76, but it should be 1.66. So you can check the answer. Anyway, you'll get the answer 1.66 in 10 to the power of minus 9 meters. So in this way you have to do. I hope this is clear. The formula is correct. Next question. If the uncertainty, in the previous session we have discussed about uncertainty in momentum and position, that is based on Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So they are asking this very, very interesting question. If the uncertainty in the measurement of position, momentum of electron is same, they are telling delta x and delta p is same, then calculate the uncertainty in measurement of its velocity. So delta x is equal to delta p in this case. That is uncertainty in position is equal to uncertainty in momentum. So now I'm deriving the formula to find velocity. So here you can see here, they are asking uncertainty in measurement of its velocity, that is delta v they are asking. Since delta x is equal to delta p, we can write delta x in delta p is equal to h by 4 pi. And delta x into m delta v is equal to h by 4 pi m. Delta x into m delta v is equal to h by 4 pi. H by 4 pi. Next step, since delta x is also m delta v because it is also equal to momentum, so we can write m delta v into m delta v is equal to h by 4 pi. M delta v into m delta v is equal to h by 4 pi. Now delta v whole square is equal to delta v whole square is equal to, next sending this m to that side, delta v whole square is equal to h by 4 pi m square by this delta v is equal to under root of h by 4 pi m square, and which is equal to, see, root 4 is 2, so 1 by 2, m square is m, so 1 by 2 m, 1 by 2 m into root of h by pi. So this is the final value. So by substituting this formula, 1 by 2 m into root of h by pi. So what is the value of mass of electron? 9.1 10 to the power minus 31 kg. So, and h value you know, Planck's constant, pi value you know, that is 3.14. By substituting this formula, straight away we will get the value of delta v. But in the examination they'll ask, if the uncertainty in the measurement of position and momentum of electron is same, then what is the value of what is calculated? They will not ask what is uncertainty in measurement of its velocity. Then straight away we can write delta v is equal to 1 by 2m into root of h by pi. After derivation you got this. Delta v is equal to 1 by 2m into root of h by pi. Delta tm is equal to 1 by 2m into root of h by pi. This is the final formula, we got it. So this is very, very important formula. So delta v is equal to 1 by 2m root of h by pi. This you have to underline and you have to note down in your classwork. This question came in many competitive exams so many times. Almost JEE mains they have given, NEET they have given. So many competitive exams. If you want, you can refer the previous papers. This question is very, very important. If the uncertainty in measurement of position and momentum of electron is same, means delta x and delta p are same. So what is delta p? Already we know delta p is m delta v because mass of electron will not change. So delta v p is equal to m delta v. So in case of delta x also have kept m delta v. So m delta v into m delta v is equal to h by 4 pi. Means delta v whole square is equal to h by 4 pi m square. By this we can write delta v is equal to h root of h by 4 pi m square. And root 4 is nothing but 1 by 2. So 1 by 2 and m square is m. So finally we got the value delta v is equal to 1 by 2m into root of h by pi. I hope this is clear. And here they have calculated the value. By substituting these values, you will get the value of v, delta v also. Now the answer is delta v is equal to 7.98 10 to the power 12 meters per second. But in the objective exam, they'll ask only the formula, not the value. If they ask us to find the value also, you can find out. So I hope this is clear. That is 7.98 in 10 to the power 12 meters per second. Next. So we have discussed problems related to de Broglie's wavelength as well as Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Next, in this session, more about next concept. So the uncertainty in position of a particle of mass 25 grams in space is 10 to the power of minus 5 meters. What is the uncertainty in its velocity? So they have given mass and they have given position also, that is delta x. So delta x is equal to 10 to the power of minus 5. Delta x, that is uncertainty in position, is equal to 10 to the power of minus 5. Mass is equal to 25 grams. Mass is equal to 25 grams, that is 25 and 10 to the power of minus 3 kg, which is equal to 25 and 10 to the power of minus 3 kg, because we have to take it in SI system. And you know the value of m and you know the value of delta x, and finally you have to find delta v. Delta v is equal to how much? So the formula from Heisenberg principle, we already know delta x into m delta v. Delta x into m delta v, because delta p is nothing but m delta v, momentum. Delta x dot m delta v is equal to h by 4 pi. So this is the formula. Straight away you can substitute the formula. Our delta x into delta v is equal to h by 4 pi m. Delta x into delta v is equal to h by 4 pi m, where m is shifted this side. Implies delta v is equal to, we have to find delta v only. Delta v is equal to h by 4 pi m into delta x. So you know the value of h, you know the value of pi, you know the value of m. So delta x value also you know. So substituting these values, you will get the answer. So delta v is equal to 6.625 10 to the power of minus 34. We are taking SI system, joule second, divided by 4 into 3.14 into mass of electron 9.1 10 to the power of, sorry, here mass is given 10 to, it's not electron, into delta x value is 10 to the power of minus 5. So if you substitute this, you will get the answer finally. So delta v will be in meters per second. Delta v will be in meters per second, whatever the value you will get. So you can check the answer after calculating this. So the answer is 2.109 10 to the power of minus 28 meters per second. I hope this is clear. Next question. A dust particle having mass equal to 10 to the power of minus 11 grams. They have given mass of the dust particle, that is 10 to the power of minus 11 grams. Diameter is given, that is delta x position, 10 to the power of minus 4 centimeter. Diameter is nothing but position. So delta x value 10 to the power of minus 7, minus 4. Velocity, delta v is given. The error in the measurement of its velocity is 0.1. Here, very, very important. So actual velocity is 10 to the power of minus 4. And this type of question also you'll get in the objective exam. But they have given measurement of error. Error in the measurement of its velocity is 0.1%. So delta v becomes 10 to the power minus 4 into 0.1. Delta v becomes 10 to the power minus 4 into 0.1. And here they have given diameter. It is not delta x, because they have given diameter. So it is not delta x. And they have given mass also. They have given 10 to the power minus 11 grams. You can convert them into kgs. And velocity is given anyway. It is given centimeters per second. So straight away, 10 to the power of minus 4 into 0.1. That is 10 to the power of minus 5 centimeters per second. And they are giving all CGS units. Finally, you have to find uncertainty in position. The uncertainty in position will be in centimeters. So this we are going to discuss now. So delta x into m delta v is equal to h by 4 pi. So you know the value of m, you know the value of delta v and delta x also. And what is the comment on the result? By seeing the diameter 10 to the power minus 4 actual should be, what are the value of delta x you got, that how much it is uncertain we have to say. So I think it is clear now. So use this formula, find delta x as usual. And after getting delta x, compare the value of delta x with diameter and find the accuracy. So the answer will be for this is 5.27 10 to the power minus 12 meters. The uncertainty is negligible compared to the size of the particle. So if it is nearby diameter, straight away you can write. So they have given in meters, so we will convert them into meters. So the uncertainty is negligible compared to the size of the particle is a comment. So This is the question. I hope you can understand. Next we have, so far we have done about Heisenberg uncertainty principle. If they are given accuracy percentage, you have to multiply that percentage with a given value. Simple, that's it. That's it. And the remaining, you have to apply the formula as usual. Next, we have quantum mechanical model. So, according to quantum mechanical model, the wave characteristics of an electron is described by wave function, that is psi. And Schrodinger derived a wave equation for the electron in an atom, which is known as Schrodinger equation. So, what is Schrodinger assumption? That the movement of electron is wave nature. The movement of electron is not particle nature, it is wave nature. So, and its wave nature is nothing but three-dimensional wave nature. So, based on this, since the movement of electron is considered as wave nature, so it has wave function also, and that wave function is denoted by the letter psi, S-I, S-I, psi, P-S-I, psi, P silent. So, here this symbol represents psi. I'm writing beside the symbol only. This symbol represents psi, PSI. We have to call it as psi. So this is called psi. Now what is, and he successfully derived a wave equation for the electron in an atom, which is known as Schrodinger wave equation. Only you have to remember the wave equation, and you have to remember graphs for this, because all these things are important for competitive exam. They will not ask to solve the Schrodinger wave equation, anything like that. So just for the equation part only they are given. We don't have much syllabus from this. So what is the Schrodinger assumption? He described the movement of electron is in the form of wave, and it is three-dimensional. And so it has x, y, z axis. As I told you, it is three-dimensional. It has x, y, z coordinates. So dou square psi by dou x square plus dou square psi by dou y square plus dou square psi by dou z square plus 8 pi square m by h square into E minus V, where E is called energy, V is called, so E is called total energy, V is called potential energy of the electron, and psi is called wave function of the electron. So is equal to 0. This is called Schrodinger wave equation. This equation is important. Just underline in a box. They'll ask which of the following is Schrodinger wave equation. So remembering the equation is very, very important. So this is the equation. It has three-dimensional motion. So it has three axes, x, y, and z. They are the coordinates, and where m is called mass of electron, h is equal to Planck's constant, and E is equal to total energy of the electron, V is potential energy of the electron, and psi is equal to wave function of the electron. Only you have to remember the equation. There is no substitution of this equation in the competitive exams, because just they want to introduce Schrodinger wave equation. They have introduced in 12th class, and more about Schrodinger wave equation you will get it in PG when you are doing chemistry in PG. So anyway, it is not required right now. So this equation is important for competitive exams. Remember this equation is called Schrodinger wave equation. Now, what is the significance of psi and psi square? The wave function psi signifies the amplitude of the wave. So, what is the wave function? It is nothing but it signifies the amplitude of the wave. What is the amplitude of the wave? The upward displacement or downward displacement. The upward displacement or downward displacement of a wave is called its amplitude. This we have already seen in wave nature of light. So, nature of electrons. The wave function has no physical significance. Psi square represents the probability of finding the electron. Here, very, very important from Schrodinger wave equation, we got from Bose theory, we got orbit concept. That is, orbit is nothing but the space around the nucleus, the space around the nucleus. So, which are in fixed path, circular path, that is called orbit. Whereas here from Schrodinger wave equation, we got new concept called orbital. Just note it down, orbital. So from Schrodinger equation, we got the concept called orbital as well as quantum numbers. Orbital. What is orbital and what is the difference between orbit and orbital? Orbits we have K shell, L shell, M shell, N shell. Whereas orbital we have S, P, D, F. So orbitals we have S orbital, P orbital, D orbital, F orbital. So actual definition of orbital is the probability of finding the electron in a small region of space is known as probability density, and the probability leads to the concept of atomic orbitals. So what is the orbital definition now? The probability of finding the electron is maximum is called an orbital, whereas the probability of finding the electron is zero is called orbit, because we cannot say where exactly the position of electron and momentum of electron in an orbit. That's why the probability of finding the electron in an orbit is zero, whereas the probability of finding an electron in an orbital is maximum. So hence it is called as orbital. And in orbital only we can find easily SPDF, the orbital name is SPDF, and we can find the position of the electron. So this probability density leads to the concept of atomic orbitals. Next. So what is atomic orbital? Atomic orbital, as I told you already, it is a three-dimensional space around the nucleus of an atom at which there is maximum probability of finding electron. Here finding electron is important. Maximum probability of finding electron is important. So in the orbital, we can easily locate the position and momentum of electron. So maximum probability of finding the electron. Maximum probability of finding the electron is called atomic orbital, and it is three-dimensional. So it is a three-dimensional space around the nucleus of an atom at which there is maximum probability of finding the electron. So this is called atomic orbital. There are different types of atomic orbitals in an atom which can be occupied by electrons. There are different types of atomic orbitals in an atom which can be occupied by electrons. So what are those? Already we discussed. That is S orbital, P orbital, D orbital, and F orbital mainly. All the elements will come under this. Next. So already I told you. So what is the main achievement of Schrödinger equation? He has discovered that the electron movement is three-dimensional, and he has introduced a concept called orbital, where the probability of finding the electron is maximum, and he has also derived quantum numbers from this concept. So what is quantum numbers? The electron, what are quantum numbers? You can see here. The electrons in various atomic orbitals are governed by a set of numbers known as quantum numbers. There are four types of quantum numbers. First one, principal quantum number. Principal quantum number, denoted by the letter N. Azimuthal quantum number, orbital angular momentum of subsidiary quantum number L. Magnetic quantum number M, and spin quantum number S. From the Schrödinger equation, we didn't get spin quantum number. However, it is important to study. That's why we are given. So from the Schrödinger equation, we didn't get spin quantum number. So the quantum number which was not derived from Schrödinger equation is spin quantum number. This type of questions also they will ask in the objective. Next. And based on quantum numbers, questions are most important. So what is principal quantum number? The principal quantum number determines the energy of electron in the atom. It determines the energy of electron, denoted by the letter N. So N corresponds to energy of electron in the atom. This quantum number gives the average distance between the nucleus and the electron. So it gives the average distance between the nucleus and the electron. All these points are important. Please write down in your notes so that it is easy for you if you write and you can remember easily in solving the objective questions. So this quantum number gives the average distance between the nucleus and the electron. It can take values from 0 to infinity. This is wrong. It can take values from 1 to 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Because principal quantum number cannot become 0. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4 up to infinity. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Each value of principal quantum number corresponds to an energy in the shell. So energy in the shell, already you know, for principal quantum number n is equal to 1, K shell n is equal to 1, K shell n is equal to 2, L shell L n is equal to 3, M shell, and so on. So each value of principal quantum number corresponds to an energy shell in the atom. That the energy shell is K, L, M, N, O, and so on. So I hope it is clear now. Next. Next value of n as I given you. So that is 1, n is equal to 1 K shell, n is equal to 2 L shell, n is equal to 3 M shell, n is equal to 4 N shell. So the total number of electrons that each shell can have is equal to 2n square. 2n square, the total number of electrons. This is very, very important. So maximum number of electrons in K shell can be 2 into 1 square. So it is the total number of electrons that each shell can have is equal to 2n square. So by this you can write maximum number of electrons in K shell is 2 into 1 square is equal to 2. L shell 2 into 2 square. So 2 square is 4, it is 8. M shell 2 into 3 square, it is 18, and so on. So like this you will get N shell 2 into 4 square, that is 32. So like this you'll get. So the maximum number of electrons that can fit in each shell is given by the formula 2n square. I hope this is clear for you. Next. Next quantum number is azimuthal quantum number, denoted by the letter L. So it is denoted by the letter L. Azimuthal quantum number is also known as the orbital angular momentum. Orbital angular momentum quantum number or subsidiary quantum number. So orbital angular momentum quantum number underline orbital angular momentum. So you know orbital angular momentum, that is nh by 2 pi. Whereas orbital angular momentum from azimuthal quantum number we will get it. So orbital angular momentum quantum number or subsidiary quantum number. This will determine the subshell in the which the electrons present. So principal quantum number will give you the shell, whereas azimuthal quantum number will give you the subshell, that is orbitals. Subshell means here orbitals. Subshell means orbitals. Orbit is bigger than orbitals. So in which the electrons present. This can take integral values ranging from 0 to n minus 1, where n is called principal quantum number. So azimuthal quantum number will vary from 0 to n minus 1, and n is called principal quantum number. So what is the range of L? L is equal to 0 to n minus 1. Here also, that also I am writing here. L is equal to, L will take the values from 0 to n minus 1. This is the limit of L. So L will take, always L should be less than n. Very, very important. Always L should be less than n. If n is equal to 1, L can be 0 only. It cannot be equal to 1. So always L should be less than n, sorry. So this is called azimuthal quantum number. More about azimuthal quantum number we'll see now. The next slide. Each main shell consisting of subshell which is indicated by azimuthal quantum number. So for the values of L, so if L is equal to 0, it is s orbital. If L is equal to 1, it is p orbital. If L is equal to 2, it is d orbital. So L values they are given. So if L is equal to 3, it is f orbital. If L is equal to 4, it is g orbital. If L is equal to 5, it is h orbital. And however, we have up to SPDF only, because G also it is not been introduced, because in SPDF only all the elements in the periodic table will come into this. So L is equal to 0, s orbital. L is equal to 1, p orbital. L is equal to d orbital. L is equal to 3, f orbital. This quantum number also determines the angular momentum of the electron. Very, very important formula. So angular momentum of electron is equal to, it is given wrong here, it is root of L into L plus 1 into h by 2 pi. Root of L into, for L into L plus 1 only root will be there. Root of L into L plus 1 into h by 2 pi. H by 2 pi will not be having a root. So this is a formula for finding angular momentum. Just change it out. So root of L into L plus 1 into h by 2 pi. So this is called angular momentum. What is the angular momentum of electron in the orbital? So it is L into L plus 1 under root of L into L plus 1 into h by 2 pi. What is the angular momentum of electron in orbit? Angular momentum of electron in orbit is equal to angular momentum of electron in orbit is equal to nh by 2 pi. nh by 2 pi. So these two formulas are most important. Definitely they'll ask question based on this in the competitive. So if L is equal to 0, s orbital, so angular momentum becomes h by 2 pi, because L into, that is total, it is 0, because L into L plus 1 into h by 2 pi. So 0 into 0 plus 1, root 1 is 1, h by 2 pi. So angular momentum of electron in s orbital is equal to, angular momentum of electron in s orbital is equal to, applying the formula, root of, for s orbital L value is equal to 0. So root of 0 into 0 plus 1 into h by 2 pi. So it is equal to h by 2 pi. So in this way you will get. I hope it is clear now. Next question. Next, magnetic quantum number. So we have successfully completed azimuthal quantum number. Next we have magnetic quantum number. Magnetic quantum number determines the spatial orientation of the orbital in three-dimensional space. So spatial orientation of orbital, it is very, very important. Spatial orientation of the orbital. So for example, if you take s orbital, 1s1, 1s2, whereas we have only p orbital, we have three axes. What are three dimensions? Px, py, pz. D orbital, we have 5 suborbitals, that is dxy, dyz, dzx, and dx square minus y square and dz square. So this is nothing but from magnetic moment, magnetic quantum number only we got it. So it determines the spatial orientation of the orbital in three-dimensional space. For a given value of L, the magnetic quantum number can be equal to 2L plus 1 values, that is from minus L to plus L, including 0. But if L is equal to 0, M is always only 0. M is equal to 0. If L is equal to 0, here I'm writing, just note it down. If L is equal to 0, M is only 0. It will not take. If L is equal to 1, M will take the values of -1, comma 0, comma +1, because it is range is -1 to +L. And for this one, if L is equal to 1, we already know it is p orbital. So we have the suborbitals of p. Suborbitals of p is equal to px, py, pz. Similarly, if L is equal to 2, M will take the values of d orbital. M will take the values of -2, -1, 0, +1, +2. Make a set. The set of M values. And what are the suborbitals for this d orbital? We have dxy, dyz, dzx, dyz, dzx, dx square minus y square, and dz square. So these are the 5 suborbitals. So first we have orbit, next we have orbital, next we have suborbitals. So all these things are very important for writing electronic configuration. So I hope this is clear. Next. So magnetic quantum number will indicate the number of orbitals present in the subshell. If L is equal to 0, M value is definitely 0. If L is equal to 1, M value will take -1, 0, +1, 3 orbitals in P subshell, that is Pxy, Px, Py, and Pz. Similarly, if L is equal to D subshell, M will take the values of -2, -1, 0, +1, +2, 5 orbitals in D subshell. So the 5 suborbitals is dxy, dyz, dzx, dx square minus y square, and dz square. So this is clear for you, I hope. Next, spin quantum number. In addition to the revolution around the nucleus, electrons will spin around its own axis. In addition to the revolution around the nucleus, electron will spin around its own axis. That is called the spin quantum number. Will indicate the spin of the electron. Spin quantum number can have 2 values, +½ or -½. An orbital can have 2 electrons with opposite spin. An orbital can have 2 electrons with opposite spin. And how to take spin quantum number values? So suppose if the electron is filling in upward arrow, electrons is spinning in up, electrons is occupying upward arrow, then S value should be taken as +½ And for downward displacement, downward arrow, electrons, that is downward spin, it is taken as -½ So it has only 2 values, either +½ or -½ For example, if you take 1s1, 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 then spin quantum number S value is equal to +½ because it is 1. If we take 1s2, so the second electron spin quantum number will have -½ So more about this, you will get it in electron configuration of elements. So in this way, I would write spin quantum number. So what is spin quantum number? Again, I'm showing it. In addition to the revolution around the nucleus, electrons will spin around its own axis. Electrons will spin around its own axis. This is called spin quantum number. Next. Next. Next we have. So this is about quantum numbers. Next we have next topic. The quantum numbers and Schrodinger wave equation. So summary of quantum numbers you can just see here. So for n is equal to 1, L value will be 0, M will be 0, S will be +½ or -½ because 1s1, 1s2, number of electrons becomes 2. So total number of electrons in main shell becomes 2. For n is equal to 0, L value for n is equal to 1, L value is equal to 0. For n is equal to 2, L value can become 0 or 1. 0 or 1 and M value takes value of, because for 2 we have 2s and 2p orbitals. So 2s and 2p. So for n is equal to 2, here I'm showing here, for n is equal to, L can take the value of 0 to n minus 1, that is 0 to 1. So 0 and 1. So L is equal to 0, M is also 0. But spin becomes plus of or minus of as it is. For value of 1, L is equal to 1. M will take the values of minus 1, 0, plus 1. And spin is as usual. And number of electrons will be equal to 6 because for p orbital it has 6 electrons. Px, py, pz. And total it becomes 8 electrons. As in the case of n is equal to 2. So for n is equal to 3. So here 8 electrons, how you got 2n square? By applying the formula 2n square, you can get the values. So if n is equal to 3, L will take the values of 0, 1 and 2. It can take any value 0, 1 and 2. So all the three values also it will take. So M will take 0. If L is equal to 0, M is equal to 0, spin becomes plus of minus of, it is 2 electrons. And here very, very important. And if L is equal to 1, M can take values of minus 1, 0, plus 1. Spin will take plus of or minus of depending on the there is filling of electrons, and number of electrons is 6. And for L is equal to 2, the M value becomes minus 2, 1, 0, plus 1, plus 2, and each orbital will have 10 electrons. So total it is 2 plus 6 plus 10, it is equal to 18 electrons. So how we got this 18? By 2n square formula, 2 into 3 square. 3 square is 9, 9 2 is 18. So n is equal to 3. Next. So summary of quantum numbers. Total number of electrons in main shell is equal to 32. So n is equal to 4. L will take the values of 0, 1, 2, 3. It is F orbital. So M will take values of 0, minus 1, 0, plus 1, minus 2, plus minus 1, 0, plus 1, plus 2, and minus 3, 2, plus 3. So all these values of M, and it has 2 electrons in the first case, 6 electrons second case. D, already we know P sub shall have 6 electrons, and D sub shall have 10 electrons, and the F sub shall have 14 electrons. So simply I will write here S. So simply you can write S, P, D, F. So F will take maximum 14 electrons. D will take maximum 10 electrons. P will take, that is orbital subshells, and P will take maximum 6 electrons. And this is 2n square formula, 2 into 4 square. So I hope this is clear. So S, B, D, F. S will take maximum 2 electrons only. 1s1, 1s2, 2s1, 2s2, 3s1, 3s2. Wherever you take S value, S orbital, it has only 2 electrons. Whereas P, we have Px, Py, Pz. So Px2, Py2, Pz2, that is 6 electrons. Whereas D, we have 10 electrons, and F, we have 14 electrons. So maximum number of electrons F orbital can fill is 14 electrons. I hope it is clear now. Next. Summary of quantum numbers. If n is equal to 5, it is not required because 5 is more enough. So what is the total number of orbitals associated with the principal quantum number? N is equal to 4. For principal quantum number 4, total number of orbitals. So first you will take the values of L. L is equal to 0 to 3. L will take the values of 0 to 3. So they are asking total number of orbitals. So we have S, P, D, F. Because L is equal to 0, S orbital, S comma, P comma, D comma, F. So total number of orbitals associated with the principal quantum number n is equal to 4. We have 4 orbitals. So S, P, D, F. So maximum we have 4F. We don't have 4G. 4G also we can have. So 0 to n minus 1 L values. So we'll see answers now. We don't have 4G. 5G we have. So answer is 16 number of orbitals. Total number of orbitals is 16. S, P, D, F. So this is the answer now. Next question. Number of electrons they are telling. To which orbital the electrons with the following set of quantum numbers belongs to? This is a very simple question. This type of question is easy, and you may get a question based on this model also. So n is equal to 3, L is equal to 0. So it should be 3s, because L is equal to 0 means S orbital, n is equal to 3 means 3. So third orbital, 3s. Similarly, n is equal to 4, L is equal to 3, 4f. 4f, because L value 3 means F orbital. Similarly, n is equal to 2, L is equal to 1, 2p. So 3s, 4p, 2p. So these are 2 orbital belongs to. So this is clear now. You can see the answer. The same thing it will be displayed. 3s, 4f, 2p. Next question. How many electrons in an atom can have the following set of quantum numbers? How many electrons they are asking? That is most important. Electrons means we have to see the shells, and then we can see. So n is equal to 3, L is equal to 2. N is equal to 3 means 3, and L is equal to 2 means 3d. So 3d orbital First one is 3D. Second one is 2s. Third one is n is equal to 4 and 4f. So D is 10 and S is 2 electrons, F is 14 electrons. So 10, 2 and 14 respectively. 10, 2 and 14 because 4f can take maximum 14 electrons. If they are asking only electrons in an atom can have the following set of quantum numbers. So they are asking 3D 10 means electrons can be, so before 3D we have 1s, 2s, 2p. So like that if we take into consideration 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p, then 4s and 3D. Like that if you take, you'll get maximum number of electrons. Now see the solution now. So 10, 2 and 14. So straight away they are taking that particular orbit only, orbital. So 3D, D can take maximum 10 electrons, 2s maximum 2 electrons, and 4f maximum 14 electrons. Next question. So next we have probability distribution curves. Before going to probability distribution curves, so we have successfully completed quantum numbers, and after that we have, based on Schrödinger wave equation only, we have got quantum numbers, and how to apply quantum numbers for a given orbital also we know. So next we have probability distribution curve. So the graphs of the wave function psi against the distance r from the nucleus for different orbitals are different here. So for 1s orbital, the psi value is decreasing with respect with the radius, that is wave function, and it's 2s orbital, it is node and it is in minus. In minus here, if you see, it is going to other axis, which is very, very important. So, and for 2p orbital also it is going like this. So this is a variation of psi with respect to r, and these graphs are important. What is psi? That is wave function, and r is called nucleus, distance from the nucleus, that is the distance radius from the nucleus or distance from the nucleus for different orbitals are different. So since psi we are getting negative, so psi is not significant. So they have given one more function called wave function called psi square, because psi square is maximum. So psi is not getting properly because for psi we are getting negative values of r, which is not at all possible because the probability of finding the electron is not negative, because probability cannot be negative. Here I'm writing the statement, since probability cannot be negative. So the psi is not significant. Probability cannot be negative. Since probability cannot be negative, this is a probability distribution curve. So probability cannot be negative because probability means expectation. So we cannot expect negative one. So probability cannot be negative. So psi is not significant. Next, the probability of finding the electron is given by the square of the function, wave function, that is psi square. The probability of finding an electron is given by the square of the wave function psi square, because psi square cannot be negative. So psi square is significant. So we'll consider only psi square. So the variations of psi square as a function of r and r are different for different orbitals. Let us see what are the graphs probability now. So these graphs are most important. Just mark important over here. Very, very important. They are asking these graphs in many exams. So how they ask the question, the psi square value, the probability distribution curve for 1s orbital, they'll give one graph. For 2s orbital, they'll give one graph. And for 2p orbital, it will be like this. So for 1s orbital, it is psi square versus r is decreasing. For 2s orbital, we'll have one curve. And for 2p orbital, we have one big curve. So these three graphs are most important. And for 3s, 3p, 3d also they'll ask the diagrams. So you have to learn all these probability distribution curves. What is node? A node is a region in an atom where the probability of finding the electron is 0. So there are two types of nodes in an atom, radial node, angular node. Radial node and angular node. So node is a region in an atom where the probability of finding the electron is 0. So there are two types of nodes. In the examination, they'll ask from Schrödinger equation only three types of questions. First is, for all competitive exams, you have to learn these three types of questions. First is what? Only Schrödinger, which of the following is Schrödinger wave equation. And second one is, they'll ask graphs related to probability distribution curve, that is psi square versus r. Psi square versus r graphs are most important. And third one, number of radial nodes and number of angular nodes. For that, there is simple formula is there. That formula is very, very simple and easy to substitute. So node is a region in an atom where the probability of finding the electron is 0. There are two types of node in an atom, radial node and angular node. So what is radial node? So radial node or spherical node is a spherical surface at a certain distance from the nucleus within the orbital on which the probability of finding the electron is 0. So what is a radial node? Where the probability of finding the electron is 0 is called nodal surface or radial node or spherical node. So nodal surface, radial node or spherical node, all the three are same. So number of radial nodes in an orbital is given by the formula n minus L minus 1. This formula is very important. So number of radial nodes in 3s orbital, number of radial node in 1s orbital, like that they'll ask in the question in the examination. So n minus L minus 1. So number of radial nodes 1s is equal to 0 because n minus L value is equal to 0 for s orbital, and 1 minus 0 minus 1, it becomes 0. For 2s orbital, 1 minus s orbital, 2s orbital it is, because s orbital again n minus L minus 1. So n is equal to 2 minus 0 minus 1, 2 minus 1 is 1. So by substituting this formula, you'll get the answer. So the formula for finding number of radial nodes in an orbital is given by n minus L minus 1, where n is called principal quantum number, L is called azimuthal quantum number. I hope it is clear now. For 2p also it is getting 0 by, because for 2p n value is equal to 2 and L value is equal to 1 for p orbital. So 2 minus 1 minus 1 becomes 0 again. So like that you will get the number of radial nodes. I hope this is clear. Next. What is angular node or planar node? So this is also simple formula. It is a plane passing through the nucleus on which the probability of finding the electron is 0. So plane passing the nucleus on which the probability of finding the electron is 0 is called angular node or planar node. So number of nodal planes in an orbital is equal to L. Simply it is L. For s orbital, L is equal to 0, p orbital, L is equal to 1, and d orbital, L is equal to etc. So number of nodal planes for 4f orbital becomes, for it is not related with n, so f orbital means n is equal to 3. So number of nodal planes in f orbital is equal to 3. Like this you will get questions in the competitive exams. Now I hope this is clear. In the next session we'll continue with boundary surfaces, diagrams, shapes of atomic orbitals. So I'm ending this session because it's already 1 hour. So I hope you understood this session. Thank you.